Yes, just go to Henry's page and just refreshing yourself. So we're gonna start when that is red. Muy buenos días y gracias por estarnos acompañando aquí en KUHS del de Radio Televisión, Canciones Domingo con su amiga Silvia Totini. Y tenemos aquí en el estudio a dos mujeres que son súper poderosas aquí en Denver, Colorado, y nos van a estar hablando un poquito de política y acerca de los planes que ellas tienen para cambiar la manera en que el gobierno está ahorita haciendo las cosas aquí en Denver, Colorado. Así que muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here with us in Canciones Domingo KUHS Denver Radio and TV station. And we have two powerful women here in the house, so I appreciate that you guys are here. I'm going to introduce them in a little bit. They're going to be talking about politics and a little bit of the changes that they would like to make for the way that the government is running right now, our Denver, Colorado. So also, this show is brought to you today by Quintana Reed, and also Mr. Quintana has another new book. It's called The Crochet Lady, and that's the one that you guys are seeing right behind us. And he has these other two books here that you guys can see. And Albert Quintana actually is a former high school teacher from Adams City High School in Commerce City. So we want to say thank you so much to Albert Quintana. And he used to have a show here. It was called the Next Gen Show. And it was probably a couple years ago. And if you want to know more about him, if you want to see his books and everything that he's been doing, you can go to www.quintanaread.com. Así que muchas gracias al señor Quintana, Alberto Quintana, que él es el patrocinador esta mañana del programa de canciones de domingo. Acaba de sacar su nuevo libro que se llama La Crochet Lady. Es el que está aquí atrás de nosotros. Y tiene también estos dos libros que se llama uno El maestro que creció en Commerce City, porque él fue maestro en la High School de Commerce City, de Adams City High School. Y también tiene este otro libro que es No More Green Chili. Así que imagínense, No More Green Chili. What are we going to do without green chili, right? So thank you so much. Muchas gracias, señor Alberto Quintana, por haber patrocinado o estar patrocinando este show. Y si quieren saber un poquito más de él, pueden ir a www.quintanaritz.com. Así que ya podemos abrir nuestro ángulo y darle los buenos días a la señora Lisa Calderón y a la señorita Candi. Is that how you say it?
Sed de vaca.
Sed de vaca.
Short for cabeza de vaca.
That's what I thought. And I was like, yeah, that kind of sounds more like the ones I know. Yeah. Well, good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to talk about politics this morning. Yeah, well, first, congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a social worker. I was a community organizer running a youth organization, a policy expert. Have been working on social issues at the local level, state level, and national level for almost 2 decades. And really just felt like there was no other opportunity or other person who wanted to run and who could run, and we needed somebody new. And my community asked me to step up, and so I did, and they stepped up and got us across the finish line.
Well, that's what a good thing when they ask you and they support you. Sometimes they just tell you, go for it, and you're like, okay. And it's like, wait a minute. Where's all the people that told me to go ahead and do it? Because it's a big step, not just, not just because you're doing it because of the community and your culture and everybody that you want to support. It's also a big step because you have to leave a lot of your life behind.
It's a huge sacrifice. People think that you're doing it for fame and fortune and all of this, and you're taking a pay cut. You're working harder than you've ever worked to raise a lot of money in a short amount of time. You're neglecting your family. You're neglecting your health. All of these things because the demands are incredible.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that we were talking to Lisa last time too, right? Lisa, that you said, having a family and then you were getting your master's and trying to do all this. I mean, right now that you're supporting her, how do you feel?
Yeah, I was actually getting my doctorate. So it was like a crazy time. Like Candy and I actually have been organizing for a long time in our neighborhood. And so around issues of social justice, equity and transportation access and all of these things. And when we ran, it was actually as a cohort. In fact, we're part of a documentary called Running with My Girls by Rebecca Henderson. And it documents kind of our race together and as women of color supporting each other, the triumphs and also the tribulations. And but I have to say that it really warms my heart. Like we were at a community meeting at Swansea Rec Center around the I-70 noise issues, and as I was walking in, a elder Latino veteran, I extended my hand and introduced myself, and he put his arm around me and he said, "Oh, I know who you are, and Candy, we are so proud of you."
Oh, wow.
And so we hear that all of the time from our community that say that we're making them proud. So even though it's hard and there's a lot of personal sacrifice, we're also doing it in this kind of history of struggle from our people generations back. And so we're just the manifestations of that.
Exactly. So it's always good when you get that. It's kind of like a comforting feeling when they tell you, we're proud of you and we know who you are, and just having you feel the energy of the people that they're really thankful and grateful that somebody that is representing, their culture as well, and that you guys are just going for it.
And we've never had in my neighborhood in Globeville and Swansea, we've never had a representative from our community ever.
Oh.
And so for us to have someone who lives in the middle of all of the things that are happening to us represent us, it makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I didn't grow up in Swansea, but being from Commerce City, we usually have most of the people in Swansea that were going to Adams City High School.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of friends from there. So we were like there on the weekends, and everything. So it was a different atmosphere than what you're feeling right now. It's just, they're being torn apart.
It's a war zone. It feels like a war zone.
Yes, it's like you want to avoid that area all the time. Otherwise, you don't know what's next on the construction level. It's like, okay, am I going to be able to get out of there, or how many times I have to go around, like I was saying the other day.
Even the pollution elements of it. It's government sanctioned violence against the people. They're digging up the most polluted zip code in America, and people, the light pollution, the noise pollution. They talked about during the hearing for the noise ordinance how the noise is used as torture in war to like for them to like make people break and talk to them and say and share things that they're not supposed to. They put them under stress like that.
And it is. I mean, sometimes I'm not. My kids are not so wild, like they're screaming all the time. But sometimes when I'm around kids that they're really screaming, it gets you. Like you try to be patient, but it's just a little noise, that gets you a little by little by little until you kind of like, oh my God, either I get out of here because I'm gonna, something's gonna happen. Yeah.
Well, that's I think part of what we've been fighting for is that it's almost like being in an abusive relationship with your government, because they're telling you, you're not experiencing this harm. It's not that bad. You're not seeing or feeling what you're seeing. And when you're going through that, especially over generations, this is real. You see the health impacts. And so even just the vibrations of the I-70 24/7 construction, it disrupts sleep, which disrupts learning, which disrupts work. I mean, it has all of these, your stress levels go up within your family. And so, the fact that, Candi has been fighting that fight, as part of the Colorado Latino Forum, we also filed a lawsuit around all of the environmental racism that was going on around there. And so we're still in this fight. But the plus side is now we have a champion on city council who's like, you don't have to convince me. I've lived it.
Yeah.
My family has suffered through this. And so I think that that's how we're also making waves. I mean, Candi's only been in office for a little over a month,
for the first 3 weeks.
And you hear her name everywhere.
Right, exactly. Yes. And so the waves, it's just a model for our government can be responsive when we have people from the community fighting for our interests.
Exactly, and especially Swansea, if you've never been there or anything, it's an area where people have been going there for generations and generations. Where all the construction is happening, it's not happening around a lot of businesses. It's like the houses are like right there. And I know a lot of the houses were bought or pretty much like taken away from the people that were actually living like on that area where they're doing that construction. And those are families that, like I said, they've been there for many generations, and it's a noise that like a lot of other cities, they have that construction going on, but it's not close to the neighborhoods. This is right in the middle of it.
That's what our lawsuit was about. The fact that this is all happening through an 84% Latino neighborhood where 50% of the people have lived there 10 years or more, it's a problem. And there were less disparate impact routes that they could have taken, and they chose not to. Oh. And they did it because they expect that Latinos won't fight back. They expect that we don't have the financial capital or political capital to make a difference if we did fight back. And so for us, we're always left behind. They always neglect us. And the way they took land through eminent domain today is no different than the way they took land from Mexico when the entire Southwest was Mexico. Or even the Native Americans when this country belonged to them.
And what a lot of people don't know is that this highway actually 50 plus years ago was originally planned to go through the whiter, wealthier parts of Denver, closer to Cherry Creek, but
through 6th Avenue.
Through 6th Avenue. Oh, wow. So because they had political power and capital, they fought off having I-70 run through their neighborhood. So we're living with a legacy of being disempowered. And then we also have then the biggest kind of big ticket projects happening in District 9, which Candi represents. So you have now this kind of a new form of the gold rush happening in these mainly Latino neighborhoods for people to capitalize now on, what the development that's going on there. And so we're being very vigilant about watching these projects, being at the table, bringing community to the table, and having community part of the policy-making process.
Is there any way that community can support you guys a little bit more? Like, what else can they do for you guys? Well, for themselves too.
That's what it is. I keep saying it's showing up for themselves. We're just the mechanism or the conduit to get the message across. And so when community shows up like they did a couple of weeks ago at City Council to testify, to make their voices known, when they showed up last week for the noise ordinance, they filled the gym to testify about their experiences. People write letters to the other people on council. Every single way that we can hit the different council representatives and the mayor helps us, because then we're not speaking all by ourselves and saying, this is what we need, this is what our community is.
Like, who's behind you? Because I don't see anybody. Right?
Yeah, you have everybody from different neighborhoods, from all over the city, different levels of power saying, we stand with them. We want what they're saying. They're saying the right thing.
Yeah. And I'm going to translate this in Spanish a little bit. Ok, bueno, ellas están representando ahorita a la comunidad de Swansea. Y si ustedes conocen Swansea, está enseguida de Commerce City, está abajo del Highway 70. Ahorita está mucha construcción porque están tratando de arreglar el highway, están tratando de meter por ahí el tren eléctrico. Lo que está pasando es que hay mucha polución acerca del ruido, los materiales, todos los químicos que están ahí donde están. Ellos, ¿cómo se dice? Están enterrando cosas y desenterrando cosas. Es muy peligroso todo lo que está ahorita en el ambiente, es tóxico. Entonces, esas cosas no se las hicieron saber a ellos cuando ellos estaban, por decir, que sacaron esta demanda para que ellos pudieran firmarla y hacer que pasara todo esto. Hay muchas cosas que ellos pudieron haber hecho para que no estuviera tan tóxico ahorita el ambiente que está ahorita pasando en Swansea. El ruido también es un ruido que molesta bastante, como estaba diciendo ella, en la guerra. el ruido que ellos que usan en la guerra es para que los soldados se frustren, se cansen, se quiebren totalmente y poder hacerlos pues que se hagan para atrás. Entonces es lo mismo que están haciendo ahorita, todo ese ruido, todos los químicos que están en el ambiente, todo lo que están desenterrando del suelo, son gases tóxicos, son cosas que van a hacerle daño a toda la comunidad que está ahí. Entonces ellas están peleando para que haya de una manera en que puedan arreglar eso. Hay una demanda puesta por todo eso, por el ruido y todas las cosas que están pasando, y quieren hacer que la comunidad latina tenga ya un voto y una voz, que ahorita ella está representando esa comunidad y ya está ahorita parte del gobierno, que ella vive ahí, entonces ella ya tiene toda la historia de cómo está pasando todo esto por tanto tiempo. Muchas de las cosas que por las que están pasando a ellos es porque los latinos muchas veces piensan que no tenemos voto, no tenemos voz, no nos aventamos a decir las cosas, no tenemos ayuda financiera o ayuda en el gobierno. Entonces, las cosas que deberían de estar pasando en otras comunidades que son más como de anglosajonas y de dinero, ellos, pues claro, las apoyaron para que no pasaran por esas colonias, esas ciudades. Entonces las están haciendo ahorita en Suecia por lo mismo, porque pensaron que como es una comunidad que es 84% latina, pueden abusar de ellos. Entonces ellos ahorita lo que están haciendo es tratando de mejorar cómo están las cosas ahorita, porque ya están haciendo muchas cosas. Entonces, o pararlos o hacer que puedan, ¿cómo se dice?, hacerlo de otra manera para que no, ¿cómo se dice?, haga tanto daño a la comunidad de Suancia. Entonces, la manera que ustedes nos pueden ayudar es apoyándolos cuando hay juntas acerca de que pueden testificar cómo les está haciendo daño toda esa construcción, todo ese ruido, los gases que están alrededor. Cuando ellas tengan juntas, que por favor vayan y apóyenlas, digan lo que está pasando, escriban cartas al mayor de aquí de Denver, Colorado, a diferentes tipos de gobierno que ellos tienen que saber lo que está pasando y ella los está representando. Entonces es un poquito de lo que estamos hablando.
Damn, girl, you're good.
Good. Trying to get everything in there.
You got it all. I was like, check. She said it all.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about what else are you looking for with the power that you have there?
You know, I think that we are bringing such simple things to the table. We're paying attention. Mm-hmm. For so many years, people, the representatives we had, were just rubber stamping everything. They weren't even paying attention. And right now, we're going and listening to what's happening, and we're questioning it. We found out that in recent years, probably the last decade, the city council has processed thousands of bills, and they have never denied a contract, and less than 10 of those bills, of the thousands in the last year that were passed, came from city council. They're all coming from the mayor and the administration. And so for city council to just use the little tiny bit of power we have is what I'm trying to do. And hopefully what that translates into is people feeling powerful, so then they want more power, and then they force our heavy mayoral control city to give back some of that power to the people and to city council.
I think the people have to, when they see that they are being listened to and their voices being enacted, then it emboldens people to make changes. So there's a charter committee actually started by Councilwoman Debbie Ortega to look at charter changes in the city. And so I would recommend to folks to think about, what are the ideas for charter changes to increase accountability for a strong mayoral form of government, and whether that is accountability, transparency, ethics changes, independent agencies. This is a time to start having those conversations, because we have a new city council, 3 of whom unseated incumbents, which was really a message for change. And we're really taking that seriously. Within the first week of orientation that Candi had, we got the lecture, and it was under the auspices of, everybody who was new, but really it was, you can't come here and be an activist. You have to come here and get along with people if you expect anything to be
And
passed
govern.
and govern. And so we just push back on that narrative right away to say, look at who just got elected. These were not status quo people. People don't want business as usual. And so that's why we're flipping the script to say, no, our power is with the people. And the people have been making their voices known, even in just the short window of time that Candi's been in office.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was thinking is like maybe there were some people out there that wanted to make this change, but they didn't feel like they had the power to do it. They were not encouraged enough to do it. But now seeing you guys out there, might help a little bit, and they finally can get out there. And if they wanna like enjoy you guys and help out a little bit more, is there any way they just contact you guys and go for it?
So our office is right in the neighborhood. We're in the 5 Points DMV, and somebody's always there. But I'm there on Thursdays and Fridays all day long. That's 2855 Tremont. I'm at the city and county building from Monday through Wednesday in committees that are open to the public.
Oh, okay.
So at 10:30 on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and 1:30, there's committee meetings in the same room, 391 of the city and county building. Anybody can come, they can watch. They're also live streamed.
Oh,
so
nice.
people can watch them at work in the background. They can listen to what's happening. If they follow me on Facebook, I kind of translate what's happening into regular people language.
Yes, yes.
Because it's hard to understand if
It
if you don't know that world. And we're paying attention to the money. The money is the way we spend our money is a reflection of our values. And so I'm trying to teach people how the way that we spend our money translates into their experience.
Yes.
Whether that's good or bad. And if people just want to learn before they start getting activated, just follow us on Facebook, ask us questions, send us messages.
Okay. Yeah, because like you said, the live stream is a great thing. They can be listening, and if they have any questions, just write them down, and then later you can go back to it and ask you guys, whatever it is that you don't understand. And it's really nice that you said you kind of translate everything because every single career it has their acronyms.
Yeah.
So and a lot of people don't think about that. They just start speaking to people. And you kind of like sometimes, hey, wait a minute, I'm not in that business, so I don't understand what she's saying. But at the same time, I'm embarrassed. I'm not going to ask you what it is. So it is nice that you do it because it's different.
Well, and that's part of the power holders keeping power internally is they make it seem like a mystery. So you need them to translate your government to you when the government is the people. It should be the people leading the effort in what they want. And so that's what we're trying to do too, is take away the mystery of how the government works. Being very open on when we post to social media to say, this is how the hearing went down. This is what they say, but here's actually how we break down the budget. And so even with this latest, there's, for example, on Monday night, there's going to be a climate hearing on two proposals, one to create a climate office and one around a climate tax for businesses, etc. But this is the opportunity for people to come down and talk about how pollution and global warming and how we need to be more responsible in terms of how we use electricity, and to divest from to move from a carbon based economy to more green industries. So people can come down and talk about that. People have a voice in our criminal justice system and how it's working or not working or working as designed. And so we really want to hear people's voices. I can say, though, as we're getting online and standing up Candi's office, we had a lot of challenges just getting our phones turned on, our computers turned on, and so, we started basically 3 weeks behind other people who were in office. So we appreciate people's patience as well as we're getting through all of the emails in the backlog and people's frustrations from the incumbent before her who wasn't as responsive. And so we're getting there, and we're also looking for volunteers who are in this fight in various capacities too.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you were talking about, the system, the prison system, and everything. I know that's another thing that you guys are fighting about the private.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was directly. It came from community. Somebody invited me to the immigration protest at Geo in Aurora,
Okay.
and me and my partner we went out there, and it was obscene. They closed off the windows where the people were the last time, so we wouldn't see them begging for help. And then the next week I'm in a committee where I'm hearing that we're going to give that same company millions of dollars to do halfway housework. And so started asking the questions and connecting the struggles, because the struggles are all connected and they don't want us to know that they're connected.
Yes.
And that's how we build power, is when we understand that immigrants are connected to the people who are the black and brown people who are disproportionately profiled and put in prison and put in jails. They're connected. Um, we're really good at knowing how to connect those struggles. And it always traces back to money. Follow the money.
And is it true that if they don't have people at this facility, there's no money for them?
Exactly.
That's why they want to keep it
Yeah.
full. So
Well, and there's other ways of helping people transition out of incarceration. And so part of what we're doing is pushing people to think bigger and more differently, to re-envision what halfway houses mean, to re-envision more holistic ways of supporting people to get on their feet, to get them jobs. And so I think that, when you have a little bit and it feels like it's being taken away from you, then you say, well, you all are taking away the only lifeline we have. And we're like saying the opposite. No, we're actually expanding and pushing for better options and better opportunities. But if we keep feeding the same criminal justice beast that is not making our people better, our communities better, there are other ways. And, we have to make the break at some point. And, this is, I think the timing is everything. When we look at, our folks dying in immigration facilities or suffering hardships and illness, and to say, well, that's a separate issue than the halfway houses. Well, it's the same industry, and it's the same industry that's profiting, and it's been at a detriment to small community-based providers who actually have been eaten up by these bigger providers. So we're fighting for community-based providers to be able to do this work because they actually started this work endeavor.
Yeah, it's the same people making money on all ends. It's the same people making money off of immigrants. It's the same people making money off of people in prison. It's the same people making money off of the prisoners or people in jail that we're putting back into communities and halfway house.
that is just,
Same people.
it's kind of like the glasses. They said if you actually raise or track everything, every single glass, glasses like eyeglasses, it's the same company.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, like this brand, they all is just one. So that's how kind of this works.
And people don't know about those monopolies. And monopolies are a failure of government. They need to intervene when that happens, but the government participates because who's funding these companies?
Yeah.
With government dollars, we're perpetuating monopolies.
That's true. I'm going to translate this in Spanish a little bit. Okay, so lo que estamos hablando es de la manera en que la prisión o las casas, por decir que se llaman medias casas, las halfway houses, también la prisión de los inmigrantes, como le llaman el sistema de detención de migrantes, que todo eso está junto, todo eso es como monopolizado por una sola persona. Entonces, todo el dinero que ellos agarran en todo ese sistema va solamente a una persona. Y ese dinero, el gobierno ahorita no está haciendo nada porque ellos agarran su parte también. Entonces, ellos no les importa, si por decir, si alguien que está siendo deportado, está en proceso de deporte, que está ahí en esa facilidad, está enfermo o algo, ellos dicen que eso es otra cosa que es muy diferente. No es cuestión de ellos, a ellos no les importa. Porque ellos más lo que les importa es tener los cuerpos ahí, porque es donde agarran ellos dinero para quedárselo ellos y no va a la comunidad, no va nada más que a ellos. Entonces todo lo que pasa es nada más lo que ellos quieren que pase y ellos lo que quieren es cambiar eso quieren ver que la gente se dé cuenta que todo está conectado y que tenemos que empezar a cambiar la manera en que cuando alguien sale de la cárcel, cómo ponerlo en nuestra sociedad otra vez sin que pase por la casa media o la halfway house, que hay otras maneras de darles como rehabilitación y para encontrarles trabajos y cosas así. Because I know a lot of times when they go out of jail or something, it's so hard for them to find a job. So they go back to the same thing they were doing before.
Right. And she's an expert in reentry services. But the piece that I forgot to mention of those things that are connected is those same companies are then contributing to campaigns to get the people elected who will make sure that those monopolies stay there, and they get government dollars over and over and over. And that's an important part to recognize. And that was what made our races so different. And it was because we didn't have, big companies or anybody behind us. We had regular people giving us a little bit here and there, pushing us toward the finish line. And so the only people that we answer to is community.
Ya, otra cosa más importante que está diciendo ella es que la gente esta que se está quedando con todo el dinero de las cárceles, de todas estas cosas que están pasando, son las que apoyan a los candidatos a llegar a las posiciones grandes, los mayores y todo eso, para que la gente que ellos creen que van a seguirlos apoyando y que no van a hacer nada para destruirlos. Entonces ellos todavía siguen haciendo lo mismo. Y por eso es una de las cosas que les pasó a ellas. Por eso Lisa no pudo llegar a donde ella quería estar, porque no tenían el soporte o el apoyo de compañías grandes, así con mucho dinero. El único apoyo que tenían era de la comunidad. La comunidad era la que les daba el poquito de dinero que ellos podían darle para apoyarse hacia la línea final. Y eso es muy importante que ustedes lo sepan para que no empiecen, muchas veces uno dice, ese nombre ya lo conozco, vamos a votar por esa persona, esta persona nunca la he escuchado. Vayan a averiguar, hagan su investigación acerca de quién es esta nueva persona, cómo les puede ayudar, qué ideas tienen y si son las mismas ideas que ustedes buscan. Si ustedes no quieren un cambio, sigan votando por las mismas personas que están viendo una y otra vez. Pues si quieren el cambio, pónganse a investigar qué son estas personas. Because, a lot of times, like you were saying, they see a familiar name and they're like, oh, I'm just going to go for this person because I know that they've been doing this for a while. But they never go and research new people.
Yeah.
And what are their ideals? And when you were here, because I was saying, just go and check her page and see what her ideas are. If they're the same ideas you have. If you don't want any changes, just stay with the same. But this is important.
And they're smart enough to know that we want candidates that are like us. So they'll get candidates with the right last name. They'll get a Latino or Latina. They'll get people who look like us to trick us. And so if we don't do our work, if we don't do the homework to understand who's pulling those puppet strings, we're going to get the same thing with a different face.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that kind of, it's funny because even though we have the same faces, the same, skin color, we don't think the same, a lot of us. A lot of us, we're racist sometimes.
Yeah.
So you don't know, it's like, oh, I'm going to run for this, but you don't know who I don't like.
Well, and part of it is the policies that have a racist impact. So you have a black or brown face saying, I'm from the community, I know you, and yet their policies are accelerating gentrification or helping to strip the resources from our community. And it makes it much harder to challenge them because they're like, they look like us and they're saying the right words that we want to hear. But I think that what we're doing is we're pulling the veil back to say, look at actually who's backing them.
Yes.
Right. And when you look at who's backing them, it is the same power structures who are invested in pushing out black and brown and working class folks, people with less political power. So they're diminishing our voice by doing that. And so we're being very authentic, even just in the first days coming into the role. I mean, Candi's been very clear about what she will and what she won't attend because we're seeing how seductive power can be.
Mm-hmm.
There are developers, coming out her way and throwing themselves at her. There are people who are like, come to our private kind of elitist event that other people can't come to, but we're going to open the red carpet for you, VIP. And because, she ran a campaign that wasn't beholden to those power brokers, it's easy to decline because it's like we don't owe them anything, right? We're accountable to the people. And we've been true to that, but we could see how people easily have flipped because they fill your head with, you're special and you're powerful, and therefore we're going to bring you into this elitist group, and that never held, any kind of appeal to either of us.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things that I was reading about when you were running, that certain candidates, were supported by this big development companies, like all these big changes that you're seeing everywhere. I mean, it's kind of hard. Like now, thinking I'm not gonna be able to see downtown anymore. 'Cause all these buildings are coming in, and sometimes it's good. It helps the economy and everything, but we have to make sure that it is actually going to help the economy. It's actually not going to destroy all our natural resources.
And who is the economy? We talk a lot about the economy and helping the economy, but we never differentiate who within the economy benefits. And so when the economy is doing great, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's doing great for everybody. For me, that means that there's certain people who are getting very rich very fast. That's what that means usually.
Yes.
And so for a good economy, right now we have the lowest unemployment rate in history because people are working 2 and 3 jobs to get along.
Yes.
And so unemployment rate, which is a measure that people use to judge the economy, isn't necessarily a good measure because it doesn't talk about how people are overworked and still can't afford the basics.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of that.
We have to look at even, for example, the controversy going on with scooters right now, and so we look at that as it could be another mobility option, and so there's lots of controversy around it, whether they're safer or not, which they tend not to be. They're 10 times less safe than bicycles, for example. But then when you look at the profit motive and you look at even the workers, we don't think of even workers behind the scenes, like who's charging up these machines. And so we got feedback from a constituent who was like, hey, you need to look at the fact that once you factor in people picking up these scooters, charging them, going around the city, they are contractors, they don't have benefits, and they're making less than minimum wage. When you put all of those factors in, like those are like things we don't tend to think about. We just think about convenience, while these companies are taking up public space and yet not being as accountable as they could be. So that's another conversation. So we need to look at like all of the different layers, and that's why when I was teaching, being a former professor, I would tell students, we need protests, we need people to turn out. We also need people to help make policy, because public policy impacts the greatest number of people for the longest amount of time. And so we need people to come out and give their voice as to policy changes, because it goes deep than just the surface issues that we're presented with.
Yeah, and I know as far as the scooter goes, it doesn't seem to be something organized. Because I actually went to the Rockies game with my family a couple weeks ago, and we almost got run over like 10 times.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's not a place for them to ride them, and they leave them everywhere. So you kind of like going, like, oh, there is on the floor, but it's not like standing up, it's actually like laying down, and you have to go around, and there's people that have their wheelchairs, and it is so difficult, and my kids said, oh, that must be fun. I was like, no, look at this, and then they're like, oh yeah, and then when they were almost getting run over, like, oh, it is too, mommy. It's like, it is not safe. It might be safe, if everything was actually organized and planned before they came out, like there would be like lanes specifically for them to ride on. Okay, you cannot leave them here, you cannot leave them there, there has to be, their stations or whatever you want to call them, instead of just leaving them everywhere. And then I saw the people that pick them up too. I saw this guy, is an older guy, and of course Hispanic, and his truck was all scratched out because we had to pick him up, and then his truck was a mess. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
And thinking it goes into a bigger conversation about public space. We just had horribly divisive campaigns because we were battling over what is public space and who is the public. Yeah. And apparently there are some people who don't get to be considered part of the public. If you're poor, if you're homeless, you're not part of the public because we don't want you on public space. And these things, these scooters, they're more valuable than a human being
No,
because
no.
we litter our sidewalks with these scooters that are owned by a private company, put them in public space, and there's no question about that private entity and why they have complete unencumbered access to public space.
That's what I was wondering, actually.
Yeah, who is really the public? And the way that we define our use of public space is something that I really want us to focus on. Even right now, on Monday night, we're deciding whether this developer who wants to build an 8-story hotel should get this 6,000 square foot piece of land for $1,500 for administrative fees, because that's the way you do vacations of public space if a developer wants it. And developers are smart. They buy parcels of land that are connected to public land like that so that they can later on ask for a vacation and get that land for free.
That is crazy. Here you are trying to buy a little house,
Yeah.
like 1,000 square footage,
Yeah.
and you can't.
Almost $1 million. Yeah.
That is insane.
It goes back to who has the power and who controls the land has the power. And so, we're fighting for more beyond the traditional concept of ownership, right? Because whether you're in a neighborhood where you can vote on certain things, it's tied to whether you're an owner or not, or a business owner, right? This is how these business districts often work. What if you're a renter? Right. What if you've lost your home because you can't afford, you've been incarcerated? We know that even just a few days of incarceration can have devastating life impacts, including losing your home and then losing your children and whatever else. But your voice isn't deemed as valued. And so what we're trying to do is recapture some of that land, relook at how the land that we own collectively through our government should be we should be given bigger voice in that, and that's part of what we're fighting for.
And reminding everybody, when you ask what community can do, they can understand that anything that the government owns, they own. Because we are the government. We are the people. We pay the taxes that the government uses to own anything and everything. So those are your streets, my streets, and her streets. That's all ours. And we need to step up and govern it together.
Exactly. And another thing, when you were saying about people losing their homes and everything, is like when the government was closed, and a lot of the people that worked for the government, they didn't get paid, and a lot of them they started losing their houses. And then here comes the bank saying, okay, I'm going to help you out and refinance your house. A lot of people thought that was nice, but they don't think that the money keeps going back to the government. So it wasn't something nice. It would have been something like, okay, we're gonna forgive you for this many months, because we know what's going on with the country. But no, they're like, let's refinance. So I'm gonna get more money out of you, and I'm gonna make you think that you're in help.
Well, and for Latinos and Black folks, our wealth has been tied up in our homes, right? And so we're, as opposed to 401ks or the stock market. And so I know it was drilled into me with my family members, my grandparents, family from Mexico, you own a home, right?
As a treasure.
Something as a treasure, and it's something that can be passed down, and it's multi-generational where we can live in. But when you lose that, you lose your home, whether through a hard economy or unscrupulous, lending practices, that generational wealth then goes with that home. So, for example, my grandparents bought a home in Northwest Denver for around $50,000 or so back in the 1950s. When both my grandparents passed, the home was sold, and land speculators flipped it for almost, I think they put it on the market for almost $800,000. Right, but because our family didn't have necessarily the capital to improve it, to build on it, to develop on it, we weren't able to make that kind of a profit. And so this is part of it, is that we're fighting for, we need to have ownership. Candi has been a big advocate on community land trusts and fighting for those to say, let's relook at a communal form of land ownership. that we had before, land speculators came in and really, reaped the profits from our communities.
Yeah, which is not even like theirs at all, and they don't even like live on that community or anything. It's just like I'm just gonna make a decision what's gonna happen with this land. So
And be careful, anyone on East Colfax. I know that there are a lot of businesses on East Colfax that are owned and run by immigrants, people of color, and there's something coming to us called an urban renewal plan for that area. And James Baldwin, a famous black author, used to say that urban renewal is code for Negro removal. And what it is it's a way to remove people of color, black and brown, immigrants from these spaces. And for a lot of the reasons Lisa mentioned, sometimes we don't have the money to invest in making our business all pretty, but you have enough to keep it going from day to day. And there's this thing called blight. And if the government determines that your area or your property is blighted, they can take it from you through eminent domain.
without any money,
They give you fair market value, but what fair market value is the value of that space right now, not what the value is going to be.
wow.
And so we need to be more vigilant and protective of one another when those things are happening, because it's the way that they have always operated and continue to operate to steal from us, even when we've invested generations into a piece of land.
Especially, it's not easy. Sometimes if we have a business, it's not that, oh, I'm just going to put all this money and open a business. It takes a lot of work, And I'm going to translate this in Spanish a little bit. Ok, so lo que estamos hablando es de la tierra de que tenemos nosotros, o sea, por decir que nosotros somos los dueños, somos los propietarios de las calles, de las banquetas, de los terrenos que están allá afuera de tierra, o sea, no son de cierta gente que nos va a decir, ok, ¿sabes qué? Tu banqueta la voy a usar para esto, como estábamos hablando, los scooters, las motocicletas esas chiquitas que están ahorita en el centro de Denver por todos lados. Esos las dejan en donde sea, y no sé si ustedes han pasado que van caminando y casi los atropellan. Es una de las cosas que estaban diciendo. Esas scooters, como le llaman, o patines, son de cierta compañía, de una compañía privada que está sacando todo el dinero de la gente que las está usando, y al mismo tiempo el gobierno no está haciendo nada para decirles que tienen que hacer unas reglas de que no dejen los patines esos tirados en las banquetas, porque no hay espacio para nosotros pasar o que vayan a lastimar a alguien. Ahorita esas patinetas están creando más accidentes que las mismas bicicletas. Entonces, lo que estaba diciéndonos ahorita Candi es de que también parece ser que para el gobierno es más importante esas patinetas que una persona que no tiene casa, una persona que está esperando nomás a que abran como decir, donde están los del shelter mientras están afuera. Ellos no cuentan como personas, ellos no cuentan como público, porque son pobres, porque no tienen una casa. Entonces, ¿cómo es posible que una persona o un patín sea más valuable que una persona que no tiene casa? También lo que está diciendo, muchos de los terrenos que están allá afuera, que la gente los está agarrando para hacer las cosas, por decir, más modernas, cambiar los looks de muchas de las tiendas y de los negocios que están ahorita en el Colfax, al este de Colfax, right? Al este de Colfax. Hay una cosa que se llama como el cambio urbano, y que si no se ve, por decir, what is it called?
Urban renewal is blight.
Okay, so es como el renovación urbano. Si tiene que todos verse igualitos, y por decir su negocio no se ve así bonito como lo quieren ellos que se vean. Ellos están protegidos por como si fuera un deal o algo así, de que pueden ellos comprarle, quitarle su propiedad, pagarle el precio que según ellos ahorita es lo que cuesta, y hasta ahí no le pueden pagar más dinero, lo que puede ser lo que ellos van a ganar después, y lo sacan de ahí. Dice ella que muchas veces a ese código le llaman como remover a la gente de color, a la gente afroamericana, a los latinos, a los que estén ahí, que tengan su propio negocio, que hay muchos de esos negocios ahorita en el este de Colfax. Entonces, so you say that they cannot let them do this to you, or how can they defend themselves?
Well, usually attorneys have to get involved, but you have a city government right now that's going to approve that plan. And
Okay.
so people need to call their representatives and tell them, we do not want to approve this plan because this plan is it's a signal to developers to come in and start buying that land because it's gonna improve whatever that means.
Oh, ok. So lo que está diciendo Candy es que ese es el plan que quieren pasar. Entonces, si ustedes tienen un terreno, si ustedes tienen una tiendita que no van a poder ustedes cambiarle a la fachada a como los quieren que se vean, pueden ustedes contactar a su representante, porque muchas veces tiene que estar abogados envueltos en todo esto. Pueden contactar al representante y decirle que no están de acuerdo con este plan, que no quieren que pase. You say there's a meeting on Monday?
Yeah, and if they know people who have businesses over there, no matter where they're at in the city, call your city council representative and tell them not to approve that plan.
Ok, entonces el lunes va a hacer una junta acerca de este plan, de que si lo pasan o no. Entonces, si conocen ustedes a una persona que tenga un negocio en cualquier lugar de la ciudad, que llamen al representante de la ciudad, al consejero, para decirles que por favor no aprueben este plan, para que tengan el apoyo de ustedes también y no pierdan su terreno.
Yeah, it's complicated, and like people just need to know that when we tell them that something's happening behind the scenes that's bigger picture, we have to protect each other. Even if you don't have a business on Colfax, if you've been part of our community in the east side, and if you've watched the Welton Street corridor develop, or you've watched any other part of town that has had urban renewal efforts, you know what happens, and that is they're flagging people to land speculators to come in, buy up that land, make it expensive so that we can't live there, and we get pushed to the edges. And East Colfax is one of the last edges where people are getting pushed to before Laura.
And gentrification is not inevitable. There are things we can do to stop it, to slow it, to reclaim our communities. You know, the narrative is they make us think that these things are beyond our control. They make us think that homelessness is insolvable or affordable housing is impossible. And we know that's not true. There are other places, other cities. There's a wonderful book that both of us love called How to Kill a City that basically looks back at from the 70s on about how these plans were put into place, but how we can also push back against those plans to push out Black and brown communities.
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard, like for a regular person to think, okay, how am I gonna fight? Mm-hmm. You know, I don't have any tools to fight back. I don't have money. I don't have power. I don't have support. You know, but there is, they're here, so they're representing you guys. If you at any time wanted to do something for the community, for yourself, you've been pushed down or step on or whatever it is. You know, it is a time for you to help out.
Yeah.
You know,
know your neighbors. Know your neighbors. Organize your neighbors, and make sure that we're all fighting together.
Is there any way, like let's say this plan passes, and that there's any help for these people that have their own stores to get some type of help to renew or make them look of their business the way they want it?
Sometimes. So what they do, that same entity, the Urban Renewal Authority, they actually like give loans to people to make some repairs, not a lot, but what they do when they give you that loan is they put a lien on your property. Oh. And so if you ever sell it or if you die and there's no will, like they have access to take that property.
It's kind of like a little,
yeah.
And you know, get involved with groups who are fighting for folks' rights. So there's Veronica Varela helps to lead this group, City for Contract and Airport Fairness CAP. But they're fighting for more contracting opportunities for people of color businesses. And so part of this is the economic strategy. We need multiple strategies to be able to hold on and to grow our businesses that have been left out. The fact that the city only had a tiny percentage out of the millions and millions of contracts that go through the city every year for contracting for everything from buildings to services, and yet folks of color only get less than I think 10% of that or so of those contracts. So that's what There's a saying: "The sweet pea boil gets the grease," is to be part of that, be vocal, as Candi was saying, know your neighbors, and also know these advocacy groups who are fighting for increased voice, because there is power in numbers. And so we need to come together. We need to turn out at these meetings. We need to sign up for the public comment at city council meetings. And we're happy to help folks kind of navigate that process and that system, because it was also designed to keep people from speaking out.
Like, you're not going to understand anything, just take over, kind of thing. Yeah, and another thing, like you were talking about contractors and stuff like that, like I do know a lot of the big companies that they have people they get contracted, like let's say by the airport or by, like the highway construction and stuff like that. These companies, like, they really don't care about how much time it takes. As long as they're getting paid, let's say like, oh, this worker is not doing anything. It's okay, but we're getting money out of that worker. Like, we get money from that city out of that worker. It doesn't matter, how long it's gonna take to do this. They don't rush to help us out. It's just like, as long as it takes, as long as they're getting their money, it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. And they don't often know the health risks. The subcontractors, I see a lot of them out in my neighborhood without masks on, and they don't understand that they're breathing toxic materials, toxic land.
Yes.
And we know that people in our area have higher rates of cancer, asthma, heart disease, death from your heart. And so those are all things that they're not telling the subcontractors. The subcontractors think that they have a great deal, and so they're working and their health is in jeopardy.
Because they're not told exactly what are they working with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes, if they really knew what they were working with, like, they would be having some type of protection.
Yeah, they're telling them the land is clean because it was clean to a certain standard. It was clean to the industrial use standard, not to digging in it.
Wow. That is crazy. Wow. So anything else that you guys would like to add to our audience? It's been like a great conversation, because I don't know about you guys, but I learned a lot,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of things that I really love, like you translate and everything, just because, like I said, I'm like from the technical side, like computer network, engineer, but like when you talk to people, you cannot talk the way how things are made. You have to kind of say, yeah, is this, the little thing that is here and stuff like that, so they can understand. And that is like a big thing for us, because not all of us know, about politics. Some words, they sound just really big, and that's how they get it. Like, oh, they talk beautiful, yeah, let's go for them. I don't understand anything of what they said, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Don't be afraid of us. I was the first person in my family to even graduate from high school. And so, like, don't feel afraid to come to us with questions that you think are stupid or you don't think that they're fully formed. Just give us what you've got and we'll help you shape your questions. We'll help you understand what you're looking for. If your audience reaches out to you because we've done something and you need some background, like, bring us back on. We're happy to explain whatever it takes to teach other people how to claim their own power. I don't want to have all the power. I want people to know how they can have their own power and make sure that when I'm done with this seat, there's many people ready to step up.
And one question, Candi. You went to college, you said you're the first person graduating high school from your family. To me, that's very important.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us that come here and we think that work is everything, and let's just work and let's not get our education further on the school, like school-wise. Like I said, we have our family education and we have, our other type of education, but I think they're both important, So what would you recommend to somebody that is watching you and said, you know what, I'm just going to finish high school, that's it, I'm going to get to work on construction, and that's all I'm going to do. Now you're helping the community because you decided to go to college and you decide to take part in all this. How do you feel about that?
College is a ticket to play the game. And whether I personally believe everything I learned in college, I could have learned out of a book by myself. But that takes discipline, that takes time. And so but I still, without the credential, wouldn't have been let into certain spaces.
Sometimes the paper is
Yeah.
what it counts, even though, like you said, I could learn this. I mean, we had YouTube. What do we need school for, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's
so-
all valuable.
Yeah. And I've worked with kids, and they're not wrong when they say, I could learn this by myself, or I'm not going to go into debt for this. It's also, it's rigged so that you are paying back your debt for the rest of your life. It's rigged so that you think that you're better than the people who don't have education.
Exactly.
But it's not true. All it is a ticket to play this game and get you into more spaces, have higher earning potential, and help people and understand the structure. I think the first time I really understood that the whole game was rigged was sitting in a college classroom, the only brown girl, and seeing people, a room full of rich, predominantly white kids who were not smarter than the kids at home.
Yes.
The kids at home were much smarter, but they had the money to be there in that seat, and they were going to get that ticket, and they were going to get another degree and another degree, and they're going to run our country.
Exactly. That's what I see a lot. And sometimes you kind of wonder, like, I mean, how do they even live their lives every day? You know, because you, not to say they're dumb or anything, but you know, sometimes you kind of really wonder, like, I mean, do they really know how to write? But it is all about the money a lot of times. So when you get this far, you know, you're so proud of yourself that you made it, you know, on your own. Nobody is like, you know, supporting you and saying, here, mija, vayas al colegio, and you know, it's all paid for. You don't have to worry about anything. Because I don't think you would they say that like not accepted, but you wouldn't be as proud as you are if somebody would just like pay for your whole college.
And I think that the exposure is the most important part of college. Being exposed to other ideas, being exposed to other people who have had such different experiences. For me, I wouldn't have been in a place with people like that if I hadn't gone to college, because those people don't hang out with people like us unless you're in college. And so to have that opportunity to see, you know, how the system works in a bunch of different ways for a bunch of different people helps you put the pieces together so that you can act in a more powerful way in your own life and your own
strategy. How to get to that, because you wouldn't know how if you wouldn't been there. Y eso lo quiero traducir así rapidito porque es una cosa muy importante para mí, la escuela, el colegio. Muchos de nosotros que venimos a este país decimos, vamos nada más a trabajar, o vamos a terminar nada más el high school, o lo que sea básico para seguir adelante o agarrar nuestro GED. Le pregunto yo a Candi, ella fue la primera persona que se graduó de su familia de la high school y siguió en el colegio. Entonces, ella no tuvo ninguna ayuda. Entonces le preguntaba yo que si para ella fue importante el paso que dio de seguir adelante en su educación escolar. Y me dice que sí, que todavía lo que ella ha aprendido, tal vez lo haya aprendido leyendo de libros o algo así sin tener que ir al colegio. Pero la cosa era el colegio, que ella fue y vio las diferentes gentes que hay pues, en la carrera de ella. Que vio la gente que nunca por decir ellos se van a juntar con alguien de la comunidad donde somos nosotros. Ellos nada más van a estar acá arriba. Y si ella no hubiera ido al colegio, no hubiera podido entender las diferentes estrategias, los diferentes tipos de pensar de diferentes personas. Entonces, una de las cosas que ella dice, el título es un ticket para llegar a donde quieres llegar, para entrar al juego, como dice ella, para poder ayudar a la gente, para poder salir adelante y tener una voz. Así que, como les digo yo les llevo mucho con el colegio y es que es lo que es una parte, no nomás porque no tengan el colegio quiere decir que están tontos, que no sirven o que son menores, no, para nada. Simplemente es una ayuda para poder ayudarnos a nosotros mismos. And they don't tell us that we just come here to take their jobs or to, you know, do something.
And they keep, this country benefits from people wanting to only be workers. Like they want us to think that about the next paycheck. And that's it, and nothing else. Because if you're always focused on just the next paycheck, then you're always on that wheel as a worker, and you keep the country going without questioning why it's this way.
Exactly. Because you know what, another thing I noticed is like a lot of us are scared of taxes. You know, sometimes we don't even do the taxes because we think we don't know how, or we don't understand all those big words that come on the paper and stuff. And a lot of the times people are like, okay, well, they're not paying taxes. No, they're paying taxes, but they get them back their money. So all the money goes for, you know, just to stay there with the rich people, and we don't claim it. So That's another thing. If you have any questions how to do your taxes and stuff, just everybody knows a little bit of it. So just ask around and get your money back because you worked so hard for it, and it's just not fair for you not to get your money back.
Yeah, and for you to not pay attention to where your money goes by paying attention to government, that's another waste of your work. You're working hours and hours and giving money to taxes and not using your voice to determine where those taxes go. That's like you just wasting hours at work.
Es otra cosa, lo que está diciendo ella, están pagando ustedes sus taxes, entonces ustedes decidan a dónde va ese dinero que ustedes están pagando, ese dinero de ustedes, entonces que se eduquen, que investiguen a dónde está yendo ese dinero o a dónde quieren que vayan, que abran, por decir, el voto, que tengan su voz para saber a dónde quieren que el dinero esté yendo. Si no, pues entonces están gastando el dinero en nada, están trabajando para alguien que ni siquiera pueden tener ese dinero, así que es una cosa muy importante también. Lisa?
I just want to thank you for having us on here and making our message accessible. You know, we have to build our wealth not only within our homes or with our incomes, but our brain trust as well. And part of how we do that is to have dialogues like this of saying, I don't know where to go, but maybe someone does. And if we don't know the answer, we can find out who will know. So thank you for having us here. You all have always been generous with your time and to be able to reach the community and to know that we have brilliance in our community and we need to lift it up and we need to actualize it for change for not only us today, but for our future generations.
Exactly. And you know, like before we had GPS and cell phones and stuff, what they used to say, like you get to Rome just asking.
Yeah.
So now you get through GPS, but before it was just asking around. That's where you get to places. So let me just see if we have any questions. Because this thing, you know, like Facebook keeps changing everything. Well, let me check on my cell phone real quick. I don't know if you guys have any questions on your feeds. Just real quick. Just like the updates from Facebook is not allowing me to look at all the comments, and I was like, seriously. So let me check that. Okay, well, thanks for watching us, my mommy. Besitos, mama. Johnny, my friend, thank you for watching too. José Luis López Cisneros. José Luis, felicidades, amigo. He's from Chihuahua, and actually had this big, iconic comedian advertising his empanadas the other day. So, congratulations, felicidades. Un besote también para Omar Chaparro. Let's see, Terry Joy. Okay, fine. Okay. So find your city council person here, contact them, and make your voice heard. So there's a link in there. So you can go ahead and click on it and see who is your person that you need to report, or you need to ask them to not to pass, the plan that they want to do that, about the businesses, right? Johnny Johnson, 14 years ago, Governor Hickenlooper said that he was going to end homeless. $14 million later, where did all that money go? Exactly.
Well, we found out a couple of years ago they were misusing that money. So.
Well, have you seen their houses and their cars? You know, you were asking where the money went.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is terrible, but it is true.
You need people like us who are asking where that money is going to.
Yes. Oh, here Donna replying, not sure, but I know we have even more homeless than 14 years ago. Wow, that is amazing. Carrie Joy, okay, Shake Out Homeless is a solvable podcast and get some ideas here. We can do this together. So there's another link in there that you guys can check out as well. Love you, Dr. Lisa Calderon. That's Carrie. Let's see, Donna Garduno, thank you. Very informative show today. You're welcome, Donna. Thank you for watching us. If you have any questions, just reach out to us. Gary, Candi de vaca, o cabeza de vaca. I'm gonna say cabeza de vaca. That's what I was like. That sounds like, but I wasn't sure. So. Okay, Carrie wants you to marry. Yes. Yes. So Donna says, say yes, Candi. Buen Prosper, thank you for this. You're welcome. José Luis, saludos y felicitaciones por su programa muy versátil. Muchas gracias, amigo. Y también te deseo toda la suerte con tus empanadas. Y cuando vayas a Chihuahua me vas a tener que dar empanadas y todas las otras cosas que haces. Así que, can you believe like I went to middle school with him, but with his brother. He's a twin. And then he asked me to go to his graduation at his state, and
Oh,
so he sent me that photo there. And I was like,
You're from
wow.
Chihuahua?
Yeah,
My,
delicious.
my family's from Colton, Chihuahua.
Oh, okay. See, that's what I like.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm from Delicious, Chihuahua, but I lived my last years in Mexico, Chihuahua, Chihuahua. Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. You guys have any?
No,
No?
thank you.
No?
Bring us on anytime.
Yeah, so we'll have them again. And remember, this show was brought to you by Albert Quintana that has two books out. Well, three with a new one, which is, well, he took it out. Jefe, where's the book? It's supposed to be here on the background. But it's called The Crochet Lady. And if you want more information about it, it's www.quintanareads.com. So Quintana Reads was the sponsor for this Canciones de Domingo this Sunday. And also, we're going to be having the author hour every other Saturday with Paul Lane, sorry, I was like, that you guys met right up here. He wrote the book Through a Caretaker's Eyes. He's actually writing more books, and he's going to make this also like how you call audible. So make sure you guys look at this. He went through a lot when his wife had cancer. So he kind of talks about what he did to get through that, and he gives some resources to people that they don't know how to become a caregiver because that's a big responsibility. So we'll be having him every other Saturday. So make sure that you guys tune in for more information. And thank you so much. And Johnny Johnson is coming at 1 with Innovations. And we'll see you guys next Saturday. Gracias por estarnos acompañando aquí en Canciones de Domingo con Silvia. Y gracias, Lisa. Gracias, Candy, por haber estado con nosotros. Y si quieren más información, si necesitan más información de lo que estuvimos hablando, de cualquier otra cosa, avísenos y nosotros vamos a darles más información. También, acuérdense que este programa fue traído por Quintana Reed. Ya tiene 3 libros el señor Alberto Quintana, muchas felicidades. Y también tenemos la obra del autor con Paul Lane, y va a ser cada otro sábado. Así que no se les olvide leer su libro, está poniendo un chapter cada semana, así que para que lo vean. Y muchas gracias, nos vemos el domingo que entra, que tengan muy bonita semana. ¡Mua!
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I covered a lot.
I know.
I try.